So here's the thing, I've been to a lot of beautiful villages in Spain, but I recently learned, in fact, Yoly told me that I hadn't been to the most beautiful, because this village here, Albarracín, in 2018 was voted the most beautiful in the country by the readers of El País. So of course, we had to come and take a look. So we don't know if we're going to be able to make it up to the walls. It's 9 a.m. We got a little bit too late a start. It's getting hot and we're both wearing very impractical shoes for this. Clearly we're not used to climbing up there. And add insult to injury, we have no idea where we're going. So if you're going to do this in summer, do it before 9 a.m. or after 9 p.m. I would say. Yeah, it's going to be too hot soon. Let's keep walking. No time for scenic stops or sightseeing. This is a mission from God. You staying here?
Yeah.
In the shade?
Yeah. I do it for Lucia.
But too hot for Lucia.
Yeah.
It's not for you, of course.
Not for me.
Just you and me. Private tour of the walls. We're almost there. Wow, it's pretty impressive. It runs right down there. So these walls were first built in the 10th century and they've been added to over the centuries. When the Moors were here in the 10th century, they built the first walls, and then the Christians later added to them, and they've been restored in recent years to their former glory. I've always wanted to say former glory. So there's a part of the wall you can get access to, but it's not this part, because this says you can't have access. So I don't know where the access is. There's some stairs down there. So here also says that you can't go up those stairs. Looks like stairs to nowhere, or stairs to jump off the cliff. So this has been a failed attempt to climb the walls. I'm gonna go down now because now we need to meet Antonio. He is like the local historian, caretaker, promoter of this village, and he's gonna give us a little tour of Albarracín because we really haven't explored the city yet. And I'm gonna ask him if he can get up these walls. All right, let's go. So I'm a bit nervous about what Antonio's going to think of me. When somebody told me that there was an escalator to get up to the walls, we sent him a WhatsApp and said, James has been told there's an escalator to get up. He's like, are you insane? And now I'm going to ask him, can you climb the walls? And he's going to think I'm such an idiot. It's like, just be happy with the walls, okay? There's medieval walls here. You don't need the escalator. You don't need to walk on them. Just look at them and enjoy them and be content in your life. Antonio is the man in Albarracín. He's been working to preserve and protect this village for the last 40 plus years and seems to have the key to every historic building in the town. He's kindly offered to give us a tour of the village, and the moment he pulled out his topographical map, I knew we were going to get along just fine. So Antonio's brought me up to the top of the Torre Blanca. You can come up here if you come on a guided tour, and it's a great place to see the village below and how it's grown and how it's defended by the walls right up there at the top, and then it curves round all the way around here with the river. And you can see how the village just kind of grew that way over the centuries in this incredible defensive position. So I'm close to the sun up here and I can feel it. We wind around the outskirts of the village beneath the remains of the 9th century Moorish fortress, now largely in ruins. Albarracín came to prominence under the Moors about this time before being conquered by the Christians in the 12th century.
Unable to expand beyond the river or the city walls, the inhabitants of Albarracín had no choice but to build upwards, meaning many buildings are 4 or 5 stories high, and the narrow lanes weaving through the town offer cool protection from the intense sun.
So right here we can see one of the towers of the wall, and you can see it has a couple of windows in it. And that's simply because once the defensive wall wasn't needed anymore, that they didn't need to defend the village, people started building into the wall. And the windows were created because, it became a house. And here we are on the other side of the tower, and there's the bakery with this beautiful grapevine hanging down, and it looks like plaster on this side, balcony, and built right into the medieval tower.
These medieval homes are often awkward and leaning in precarious ways. Antonio explains that nowadays in construction we're obsessed with straight lines, but back then the building process and the end result was more organic.
Antonio produces an enormous key and takes us into the historic Bishop's Palace. We climb the stairs and wind through the museum of local treasures and Flemish tapestries. Back in 1980, this building was in a decayed state, and Antonio remembers the day over 40 years ago when he opened these doors to discover a hidden chapel long left to deteriorate. He said it felt like stepping into Tutankhamun's tomb. Now restored, I love the paintings of the peeping priests behind the doors and lattice work.
Antonio and his team were restoring the cathedral. They open it up and they find paintings, medieval paintings that had just been covered. So we see these paintings here that were medieval, and then in the 18th century they just covered them. And then we see these little holes here where Antonio and his team have dug in just to see if there's more paintings behind here, but there wasn't. And I asked Antonio, feeling a little cheeky, what he thinks of this label that Albarracin is the most beautiful village in Spain. And he laughed and he said, well, look, it's kind of a bit of a joke because it's totally subjective. What is beauty? But what he did say is that Albarracin is the best restored village in Spain. And I think that is the key here.
Like so many other villages in Spain, Albarracin was in a state of decay after the Civil War, from bombardment and decades of poverty. The Almagros, a wealthy local family, began the mission of restoring the village, and it's continuing that mission that Antonio has dedicated his life to. But Antonio doesn't want Albarracin to become just a film set of pretty facades. His foundation also restores the interiors of the building, and he wants this village to have a vibrant cultural life as well. So he organizes workshops and artist residencies to make sure Albarracin still has a beating heart.
And that restoration project is key because we're in Teruel, the province that is perhaps the most depopulated, the most emptied out of Spain. It's actually called part of España Vacía, the emptied Spain, where people, for lack of opportunities, have left their villages and have gone to the cities to find work, which has left villages here in states of disrepair and empty, with 3 or 4 people living there, older people, and also ghost villages that have totally emptied out. And if it's not for the work of Antonio and the Almagros before him, Albarracin might have just wound up another one of those ghost villages with 3 or 4 people living here in ruins and completely empty.
Antonio suggested we eat at a little restaurant that does local dishes with a modern twist. Don't you hate it when people say with a modern twist? It also happened to be #1 on TripAdvisor, so we headed for Alicia with hungry stomachs and high hopes.
And I do love a place that serves an obscure local wine, and this is what I'm drinking from IGP Ribera del Jiloca. I never even heard of it. So this is a croqueta of lomo and onion. Volcanic, gooey, boom. Okay, so next dish we have this ajo blanco, which is garlic ground up, and it's got coconut milk, I believe, in there as well. And then we have this guarnición, this like salad of apple and local herbs and grapes and onion. Fresh.
Quick, drink, quick.
Oh my god, quick! Taste it. Ooh, I love the coconut. It's just very stressful with the camera to have to eat these things and then eat the other thing. Quick! Oh my god!
Oh, it's very beautiful with the coconut.
White beans, bacalao, tripe, all in a saffron pepitoria. Ooh, yum. That's a really yummy stew. The bacalao, the borracha, the other stuff.
Can't have enough of it. Get there. Come here.
Come here, get there.
Get this.
Cannelloni of game meat with a Bordeaux sauce, which is like a red wine sauce, and then old cheese on top.
Ooh.
No pressure, be honest.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah?
Gamey, foie.
Okay. And I'm scraping the bordelaise, I don't mean the people, and the aged cheese, it's so good.
Traveling with a baby these days means we need to eat dinner in our accommodation, but this new limitation creates new opportunities. We'd pick up some famous Teruel jamon, bread, good wine, and other supplies, and get a chance to chat with the locals before heading back to our apartment in a 17th century building on the outskirts of town.
Okay, it's 8 in the AM, and it's the second assault, my second assault on the walls. So I asked Antonio yesterday if it's prohibited to climb the walls, and he said, it's not so much prohibited, it's just not recommended. And that was like catnip for me, so I'm going up. We're gonna see if we can do it. It's just me this morning, Yoly and Lucia back in the apartment. Obviously wouldn't put them through this, but let's see. I am not gonna walk along there. I am not Indiana Jones. Sadly, I kind of wish I was. But you know what? Technically, I have climbed the walls. I am up the walls. So, you know, just because I'm not gonna walk down the parapet of death, we don't have to mention that to Yoly and Lucia. We can leave that detail out. You know, I climbed the walls. It was really dangerous. Indiana Jones, etc., etc. Just say that. Even better views. They keep getting better. I keep getting higher and they keep getting better. We've come 15 minutes out of the town by car to another historical site that caught my eye. You remember the last scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark? These hills kind of feel familiar.
Oh yeah, totally. You've been there.
There's a whole Indiana Jones vibe happening, which I like. I need the hat. Yoly, the landscape is now more Last Crusade, you know, when they're going through the valley at the end.
That's what I was actually thinking, like, initially.
Oh, really? You were thinking, well, it started Raiders as Last Crusade. Hopefully we don't get into some Temple of Doom action. That's when I think it would be time to turn back. This is the most incredible aqueduct in Spain that you have never heard of. You know, I know you've seen and maybe been to the big one in Segovia, and there's plenty of others in Spain that are above ground. The Romans built this in the 1st century AD, and instead of building an overground aqueduct, they actually caverned out the mountain, and the water would run through all these caverns that you can walk through now. 300 liters per second, and it runs for like 25 kilometers, connecting Albarracin with another town that was Roman. It's pretty cool, huh?
That's amazing.
So you know what, Yoly?
There's actually caverns like this in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Really?
So we've nailed the whole trilogy, the first 3 films, the good ones, in this experience. Oi, okay.
Okay, I want.
I'm not Indiana Jones, I'm not going down there. All right, let's go and eat lunch. Antonio, our hookup, suggested this place. It's family run by a husband and wife, and this is a great place for traditional food, the kind of place to give you the full bottle to top yourself up. So very happy, and the food is excellent. So is Albarracin the most beautiful village in Spain? What's my take on it? What's the verdict? You know what? Who cares? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's wonderful here, like so many other parts of this country. So definitely come and check it out. Just make sure you bring the right footwear and maybe your fedora. Guys, if you want to check out more off the beaten path places in Spain, check out the playlist. It's appearing somewhere around here, and we'll see you over there in a minute. Ciao.